Okay, I think it's streaming now. Welcome back to episode 26 of the Tech Lounge. I hope you're all doing fine, and I'm joined by Kev from Tech Showdown. How you doing, man?
Well, you're doing great, Brian. How about you, bro? You're seeming to be pretty busy lately.
Yeah, so leading up to Computex, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of stuff I got to get done. I still got to do the GTX 1060 versus the RX 580, which should be really good because I'll be overclocking both the cards, talking about everything in those involved with those two cards. And there's a lot of builds that have to get done. I still have to do an R5 1600 build, R5 1400 build, and yeah, I just want to do a lot of things. Yesterday we did a build yesterday, and people like, why would you use the R7 1700 over the 7700K? It's like I'm just doing a build. Like there's no,
Yeah.
it's not like the end of the world. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was kind of like, it's just a build. Yeah, so it's just a build, guys.
To a price as well.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I did put a cookie cutter list in the description. So, yeah, and I got to build things because I have to get content done. I can't wait for extra parts, or I just don't have time until Computex at the moment. I've just got to get things done. So, yeah, it would have been a few little things I could have changed, but at the end of the day, I hope people enjoyed the video, and I hope people enjoyed the performance figures that came out of those two parts together. The 1700 overclocked and also the GTX 1080 overclocked. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really good. I was surprised that their gains in Dota 2 were as big as they were. That was huge. Because I remember testing Dota 2 when Ryzen was first released, and it performed pretty bad. Now it's performing really well. So I'd say, I think they showed us slides at their presentation in Sydney, and it was I think it was about 15% or something. They said something like that. The gains in Dota 2, I'm seeing much more than 15%. So, anyway.
Yeah. No, it's just a really solid, eh?
Yeah.
No, I thought it was a solid build, eh? I think maybe it's just because a lot of people, I think those mid-range builds are what's more applicable to people. But of course, we like doing the high-end ones as well. They're always fun.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's usually the GPU that's most important. And you chuck the GTX 1080,
Yeah, 1080.
Yeah. So that's real. I mean, that's a pretty powerful GPU. So
Yeah,
the thing would probably go pretty good.
it's a really good GPU. The 1080 is probably the one they get now that I see them going for like $480. That's extremely good price for a 1080. So
Yeah. No, it's really
and
solid
Volta
as well.
and Volta's been announced too. We'll talk about that later in the show. Because first up, you
Yeah.
wanted to talk about the i9s announced from Intel. So finally, they're going with the i9 naming scheme. I mean, it's taken them long enough. I thought, okay, well, they were holding out with the i9 variant, and now they're releasing it with this, which is arguably one of the least anticipated releases from Intel. So what you wanted to talk about this too, eh? What's your thoughts on the i9?
Yeah, so I've tried to do about as much research as possible on these because they're going to be a very interesting CPU now that Intel finally has some competition from AMD. So going to the i9 naming to start with, that's an interesting choice. It's going to be good to make it distinct from the i7 line, but then at the same time, most of the people that were buying these high-end CPUs are all enthusiasts anyway, so it's not like they would be getting confused in the first place. There would be some people buying these for workstation use and editing rigs and things like that. Maybe people that aren't PC enthusiasts. But yeah, it's still, but they've done it. So, and someone actually, a few people actually predicted this a while back. So they were right on the money with saying that Intel would go to the i9 naming scheme. So this will be coming in on the new socket 2066. These new motherboards will be the X299s, but we don't know much about them yet. And right now it's looking like you're getting the same as Broadwell in terms of lineup, except instead of two 6-cores, you'll just have the single 6-core, and instead of going up to 10 cores at the top, there'll be the 7920X, which will be the 12-core 24-thread behemoth, and that will be coming out a little later on. That won't be from launch, which is apparently going to be next month. These will be launching. So, but the 12 core won't come out till a little bit later, maybe a month or two after the rest of them are out. So that's quite interesting. When we look over the specs of them, a lot of you guys that know CPUs will tell very quickly, like I did, looking at the L3 cache, you'll be like, why is it so low? Let's look at the 7820X, for example. That has an 11 megabyte cache. All of Broadwell E, except for the 6800 and the 6950X, I believe, had a 25. The rest all had 20. So what it looks like here is Intel have actually dropped down the cache quite a bit, actually. Like on the 7820X, which is the 8 core, so it's like my 6900K, they've almost halved the L3 cache, which is an interesting move. At the same time, the die itself is going to be much smaller on these compared to Broadwell E. And also the clock speeds will be higher. You're seeing that 4.5 gigahertz boost clock. That will only be on a single core, I imagine, but you'll see an all-core boost of probably around 4.2, 4.3 or something, maybe. We'll have to see close to the time.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting there. It seems like Intel's done a little bit of a switch. I probably think this is to bring the price down, but it looks like they've traded a lot of the cache away in exchange for higher clock speeds. This is actually made on the same fabrication process as Skylake, so that's why it says 14 nanometer plus. So that's quite interesting also. So we should see bit of gain there going from the Broadwell to Skylake, which is pretty much the same as Skylake. So that'll be quite good. But yeah, what do you make of that, Brian? Trading cache for speed. Obviously, it'll probably improve in performance because, you know, clock speed is better than cache in terms of better performance.
I mean, it's good. It's good and bad to a certain point, right? I mean, if you start disabling too much, then it's going to affect CPU performance. So, I like the fact that they're going with the higher clock speeds on this 8 core. I think this would be the one to get out of this lineup. I mean, if you were to get one of these CPUs, not that I'm really interested. I'm actually really waiting forward to their Coffee Lake 6-core 12-thread that's going to have the latest IPC and should hopefully overclock higher than these. But this one, you know, it looks like they got 2.75 megabytes of level 3 money per 2 cores. So interesting design that they're going with. So not only they're disabling the cores, like you said, they're disabling the money on board there. So I should say cash, right?
Yeah, because so people don't get confused.
No, but I say cash. I say cash.
People say that here in New Zealand as well, but every time I'd say it, people would get confused in my videos, so I just say cash. What's interesting for you guys that like Ryzen is that only the top one will have a larger L3 cache, because remember Ryzen 7 has a 16 megabyte L3 cache, so only the 7920X will have a larger one. Now that isn't, there's a lot more to this. This is very sort of simplistic how I'm explaining it, and Intel will have obviously done internal testing because it's not going to be worse than Broadwell E. You know, they just simply wouldn't release it if it was worse. So this is obviously going to be better, just due to clock speeds alone. The fact that they can get that 8 core up that high. I mean, my 6900K will not go over 4.2 no matter what you do. So that's quite cool. But yeah, it's an interesting take. And those bigger ones, TDP getting raised up to 160 watts. So it's starting to get up there.
Yeah.
Now it's getting pretty toasty. So it's an interesting attempt. The other thing that's interesting is they'll be releasing these Skylake X CPUs at the same time, and this is quite bizarre to me. So it's going to be on the same motherboard, the same socket, LGA 2066. So it'll go in the X299 motherboards. But there's going to be the i7 7740K, which will be at 4-core 8-thread. It looks like the same thing as the 7700K. It has the same cache. Everything's the same, except it has a higher TDP.
It should have more PCIe connectivity too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
If it didn't, it'd be the most pointless CPU in history. So.
That's the other thing that you just reminded me of, is that on Broadwell E, that's the other thing that's getting reduced. The 6-core and 8-core Skylake X will have on the CPU, they'll be able to flow 28 lanes. Then when you go up to the 10-core and 12-core, they'll be able to flow 44. And that's
Oh,
a
wow.
big departure from Broadwell E, where the 6800 could flow 28 and all the rest did 40.
So are they going
reduced it
to
down as well.
make the 8-core more cheaper then? I hope so, because
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be much cheaper, because if you're someone like me, and I've been waiting for these CPUs, because after these come out, I'll be deciding between this and Ryzen of what my rig upgrades to, because I want to get off X99. The
Oh,
the
poor guy.
6900K I have right now, it's gonna be funny to test it against this 7820X, because it has more PCI lanes, more cache, and but the lower clock speeds, and that seems like the only thing that's letting it down. And probably the IPC will obviously be better on these ones too. So it's just an interesting thing from Intel. Obviously, I think they see the price tag, that 500 US of the 1800X, and maybe they're trying to bring it down. If that 7920X came in at 500 US, boy, now that would be a good price point to come in at. But yeah,
Probably
these other
600,
ones,
probably 600 for the 8-core, I'd
Yeah.
imagine. That's about right.
Yeah.
That's about Intel's level of, they'd want to charge a bit more, because, their margins will be higher. But one thing that really is getting me, is perplexing me, is this boost clock here from the 6-core to the 8-core. You see there, the report, I mean, this is, again, not official, I don't think.
Yeah, this
But
is just a leak here.
It's still 4 gigahertz versus 4.5 gigahertz. Are they doing a bin job on these chips? So they all come from the same SKU. They all come from essentially not the same SKU. Sorry, the same chip. They're just these ones are the most cut down version.
Yeah.
And things with the most things disabled on the core. But is that an indication that, hey, the 8 cores will still kind of be some sort of bin as opposed to the 7800X? And will you indeed, on average, get higher overclocks out of the 8-core versus the 6-core? Because the 6-core's always been that champion of price performance on Intel's lineup. I mean, the 5820K really hit the market hard. And I know a lot of guys who are still running the 5820K and don't care about upgrading, because there really is no need to upgrade if you're on a 5820K. And so, but this time around, if they're going to have a chip that runs significantly slower, or at least doesn't overclock as high as the 8-core, then I think that'd be a point for the 8-core to go for the 8-core.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, picking on it for the PCI lanes isn't completely fair, because if you're deciding out of that in Ryzen, remember Ryzen can only go up to 24 on the Ryzen 7s, off the top of my head, I believe 24.
Yeah.
So these will still have 4 more than the top Ryzen when these come out. So that'll be interesting. We'll talk about the 16-core Ryzens a bit later. But these top ones will be good too, the fact they got 44. I was talking to Steve about it from Hardware Unboxed last night, and we were discussing how many lanes does an average consumer really need. And yeah, most people will not require more than that.
The average gamer, the average gamer would only need like 16. Got your 20 plus your NVMe SSD, so... because even then a lot of graphics cards can't saturate the PCIe 3.0, so I'd say 20 or 24 is very mainstream. Of course, I need to put in a capture card and put in some extra devices via PCIe, so 28 would be pretty much a sweet spot for me personally.
So that's interesting. And the weirdest thing about this, though, the weirdest by far, is those KB Lake X ones, because I don't really see why they exist to begin with, but whatever. But what makes it even worse is that 7640K, they're calling it an i7. That's a 4-core, 4-thread CPU. What on earth, Intel? Maybe
they can charge your
strange.
DLC, dude. Maybe they can have the option, because it has the option you can download more threads. Maybe that's an option.
It just makes... Why make a 4-core, a quad-core 4-thread CPU on socket 2066? Like, my only thought with these is that it's for people that want to get on X299, but they don't need that big CPU power, which maybe there's people out there that need that. But yeah, it's
Who
just
knows?
it
We'll find
seems
out.
very bizarre.
We'll
These CPUs seem very bizarre, but the rest of them seem quite interesting. The i9s. So it should be, but the pricing, that's what we don't know right now, is the pricing. And if these are going to come in at a very high price point, I mean, you'll probably end up seeing these at
Yeah,
Computex.
that's what I was going to say. I
Yeah,
was going to
so,
say we're going to Computex, so I'll be doing full coverage on this. So see what's going on, see what the real deal is, see the price points they're going to hit at, giving you guys my thoughts and opinions. But as I've said before, I'm kind of waiting for their next gen 6-core 12 threaded mainstream CPU. I think that if it can overclock as high as Skylake and they do it right, then that's going to be a hard hitting CPU. So that's the one I'm most curious about, and there's no information on that. There's just X299, which in ways, Ryzen's really bringing competition to this lineup even before this is even released. So yeah, i9.
yeah.
Guys, let us know what you think of the i9. Are you going to get an i9? So we got here the next one. Alan Wake is getting removed from digital stores due to expiring music licenses. So I just went and bought this copy. You can get it on Steam, the actual store in Steam itself, for like $3.99 USD. So they've just reduced this game 90% off on Steam because the music licenses are running out. And I guess the sales of the game aren't enough to renew those music licenses. So they're just like, look, we're just going to let this game sort of not be for sale after literally today. So there's like 18 hours left to go get this game. So I went and bought it, give it a go. So you can get it for like $3. So really cheap.
Yeah.
And
it's quite an old game now as well. I mean,
yeah.
It's 7 years old. So, but yeah, it's quite scary if you don't handle horror very well, like me. Then you probably want to give it a miss.
Yeah.
I just watched a playthrough, but
Rest in
but
peace,
yeah,
Alan Wake.
yeah, it's quite a cool game though. It was very quite when it came out at the time. I remember it was quite a cool story that it had a departure from a lot of the cliches that the horror video game industry was sort of stuck in back then.
Yeah, well, we'd have to do a whole PC. What do you reckon, guys? Alan Wake PC. What do you think of that?
Jesus, they'd probably run it off integrated.
Yeah. A Pentium G4560 and that's it. So
Yeah.
we got here, next up, we got Threadripper from AMD. So apparently they've got two lineups coming. They've got Naples, which is the server dedicated CPU with 2+ node there, so you can interconnect two of these CPUs. And then you got Threadripper, which is meant to be, I guess, more of a workstation orientated CPU with being a single node, and both coming out on AMD's X390 or X399 platform. I guess it has been confirmed that AMD, and I guess we'll talk about that now quickly, AMD at Computex. So AMD have confirmed at Computex that they will be showcasing the X399 platform. And that was huge. X399 platform and a Radeon Vega. So they're both going to be at Computex. They're both going to announce these both these lineup of CPU architecture and video card architecture. So can't wait for that. But on that, let's get back to the thread at hand here. So with that, we've got X390 and X399 motherboards. One being only one node, that means you can only use one CPU, and then the other you can use two or more. So I think Threadripper is going to be very interesting, and I think from Threadripper we could still derive, I guess, predictions for the 2+ Naples anyway. So.
Yeah, we can. You can kind of the Whitehaven or Threadripper will be, up to a 16-core. So this will be coming out not too long after, I believe, that 12-core Skylake X will be coming out. So that will give it some pretty fierce competition straight off the bat. The L3 cache is enormous at 32 megabytes. Like, wow. Yeah. The TDPs all getting up there too. Apparently 180 watts. Kind of makes you remember back to the old 9590 with that 220 watt TDP, and people thought that was outrageous, and now we're sort of heading there. At the same time, this will actually have pretty incredible performance, so at least with workstation stuff, so that will be quite good. Quad channel memory as well coming, so that'll be good. what a lot of people complained about with X370. Although I honestly thought it was fine that it didn't feature it, because it wasn't really that much of a detractor for the vast majority of the consumers. I don't think really cared about that. But for those that did, then X399 will have that there for you. So yeah, this will be quite good in competition. The clock speeds, as you could see, are not going to be the greatest in terms of what by comparison to Skylake X, but in just pure power, I think it'll make up for it, being that it'll have 16 cores, 16 good cores too, and 32 threads.
More cores.
And it also wastes Intel, because they took their naming scheme. What's going to happen with the next is Intel just going to have to jump like they did from going from X99 to X299, because they can't go to X399 now. They'll have to jump, they'll have to change it.
It was a good move from AMD. I thought it was a smart move. X399. Hey guys, we got the better. Just by naming schemes.
399 sounds better than 299, right? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. As much as people as much as us guys who know what it's all about don't really care about the namings, there's a lot of guys who just walk into computer stores and they see numbers. Oh, X399? Hey, that must be better than X299. I'm going to get that. And they don't even think twice. They just see, oh, it's got more cores too. What's there not to like about this? I'll buy it. Now, in AMD's defense, this time around, they've got a really good architecture. So, hey, they're offering really good value for money. But, yeah, I don't know what Intel's going to do in response to that. I think, yeah, they probably just end up just jumping and going to a whole new lineup of CPUs and motherboards. And, yeah, so the quad channel memory does excite me a little bit, especially once you get 4 sticks in there and you start seeing how much of a difference it really makes to games. 'Cause there's this whole thing about, dual channel, but hey, let's check out quad channel and see how much of a difference it makes to games. So people go like, I get my memory to 3,800 megahertz or something, and it's just killing games. It's beating everything now. It's kind of like, probably not. So I guess the quad channel will get to confirm that. So that'll be a good thing about quad channel. We can finally test games in quad and see how much of a difference it makes. But yeah, as you said before, the clock speeds are significantly lower, but that's to be expected. As you get more cores, you get more heat, and heat's a hard thing to deal with.
It'll be difficult. Yeah, it'll be difficult. And seeing how much Ryzen likes memory right now, fast memory, that'll also be interesting from going from dual to quad channel. But you'll be able to overclock these, so I imagine you'll be able to take them a bit higher. I can't imagine it would go over 4 gigahertz, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I don't really see it at 16 core. I reckon you'll probably get like 3.8, 3.9 out of it, depending on how you want to do it. If you're just wanting it to go on a single core, but that no one would be buying one of these for gaming, I would imagine. They would be buying it for gaming and productivity, or just straight productivity. Yep. So that it will still be interesting, but this is definitely aimed at those high-end enthusiasts, the people out there, or the workstation guys that just need that raw power. And depending on the price point, again, that this guy will be coming in at, because we don't know what it'll be. You could say, because it's double a Ryzen 7, that you could just double like an 1800X, but I don't think that'll be fair. I doubt it'll be like 1,000 US. I would imagine this will probably come in at, I'm thinking maybe 750 or something US. What do you reckon, Brian?
For the Threadripper, it depends. Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine a bit more. I'd say they charge 800 for it, 900, possibly even 1,000. Just depends. AMD have to make money, man. At 750, they're not going to be making much money on a 16 core. So, I'd say it'd come in at around $1,000 for the 16 core. But
really that high?
Well, they have to, man. You have to.
Yeah.
You can't be selling stuff like you look at 300. I can see that yesterday I did yesterday's build. The Ryzen 7 1700 is coming in at $310. That's essentially AMD's flagship at this very point in time. $300, man. They're not making a whole lot of money. People are like, oh, there's the 1800X. They're the same thing. Like, you just have to overclock. So yeah, it's kind of like they need to start releasing that exclusive product that's really up there and it's making the company a bit of money. I mean, I'm sure no enthusiast is going to felt hard done by because they can't get a 16 core for relatively the same price in comparison to an 8 core. Oh, it's not $620. Bang my chest.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. Like, AMD have to start making profits, and if they don't, then they're going to end up in the same situation they were in a few years ago, where they were just really struggling. So, interesting enough that they've got these PCIe graphics lanes here. I'm reading that right. 44 lanes from the CPU, and then you've got an extra 8 lanes from the chip. So 52 lanes in total. That's pretty huge. So that's a lot of PCIe lanes. So Threadrippt is definitely going to shape up to be something that will hopefully benefit people on workstations and make a good alternative to what's out there. Of course, 4,000 pins is a lot of pins.
Yeah. No, it definitely, and I think for you guys out there, the fans, you're going to see a lot of your favorite tech YouTubers changing CPUs this year. If they haven't already switched to Ryzen, I think you'll see a lot. Maybe we'll switch to Skylake X. Maybe some will switch to this 16-core Ryzen, the Threadripper.
I'm going to change to everything, man. I like experiencing everything. So I think after a few months, I'll even do a breakdown of Ryzen, what it's like compared to an Intel 6-core. And I mean, honestly, I haven't really done it too soon because there's not much of a difference. Like, my life hasn't changed. Yeah,
you like experiencing everything, eh, Brian?
That's
you like
it.
Experiencing
man. That's it.
All sides of the party, don't you?
Yeah, man.
Everything.
So that's it.
That night.
If you never go, you never know. So that's it. So you got to experience all angles, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm not doubting you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool this year. I think you guys will be watching a lot of your tech YouTubers, and you'll see them change. I think there'll be a lot of personal rig update type videos coming out.
Okay, so now we've got AMD's Starship as well, which apparently they've got this on a leaked slide from video cards. So 2018, 7 nanometer. This just seems a little bit too much for me. Because they're just starting to roll out their really high core, high threaded enthusiast and server based CPUs. Now, where's this 7 nanometer? It just seems way too aggressive, way too soon. More of a news kind of clickbaity kind of thing. It's like, okay, how are they going to drop down to 7 nanometer now with 48 cores, 96 threads? And it's saying here x86. So I know people will be like, oh, it's going to be on ARM or something like that. But no, it's saying here x86. So I just think that one's way too soon, way too much. Maybe we should just move on.
End of last year. They could be meaning the end of next year. I mean, so because Naples isn't even out yet. This is where AMD will be making the big profit margins.
Yeah, but it's saying like literally like Q2 2018.
Yeah, I think it'll get pushed back though. I think it'll more likely be Q3, Q4 2018 because it will be on the Zen 2 architecture. But yeah, that would really do a good blow to Intel because the Xeon E7s, the new naming scheme, the gold and platinums, they will be going up to 32 cores. So if AMD can get out a 48 core, we're going to have to see the power consumption as well. Naples itself is going to be a beast, being 32 core, 64 threads. So that will be quite interesting too. How much power they use. TDP is rated for between 35 and 180 watts for Naples, whereas the Xeon E7s is looking like 110 to 160. A lot more cache as well on the Naples than the Xeons, so that'll be interesting too. But this is good. At least it's good that Intel has some competition in the server platform market because they've just had a monopoly for ages, and they've been milking that monopoly like crazy, making so much money. So it's good that AMD's bringing some competition here, and I think it's good that they're aggressive. I'm with you, Brian. I think this is very ambitious to replace Naples after only 12 months. But it's happened with the Xeon, so could be possible. It's gonna be, it'll be a big blow to Intel if they do achieve this. They'd have to do something crazy with the Xeons.
I did, yeah. So, I mean, that's what I mean. When we're going to go to Computex, we're going to see what it's all about, really. So we can only speculate so far. Naples, I mean, I'm honestly not too, like I said before, I'm not too interested in the higher. Past 8 cores, 16 threads, I'm really not interested. I think it's a waste of money, even for someone like me who can multitask and utilize a lot of cores and threads. Past 8 cores, 16 threads with good IPC and high overclocks, I don't need a whole lot. Like, that kind of power really is starting to be a waste, especially when Adobe.
Well, these are made for the enterprise market,
Yeah.
not the consumer market, though. So
and look at our
they
audience,
were
dude.
made
I
for
mean,
service.
how many guys?
Oh yeah,
out
I
there
know.
are-
I'm just saying. Yeah.
so-
I know. It's not so much for the audience, but more for the fact that a lot of people want AMD. They're worried about them financially, and this is what should help bring them back. They can sell heaps of Ryzen consumer CPUs, and that will help them. But this is where they'll make their big money. This is what will bring AMD back
If
to
they
life.
have, that's what I was saying. If they have flagships, I mean, they have
Yeah.
to outperform the competition, and they have to be. Like, I mean, the consumer flagships are still a big profit avenue, and you can't deny that.
Oh, I'm not denying it. I'm just saying that this will be
so-
more profit here.
But there's
A
no,
lot.
but there's not going to be, like, I don't see really the average consumer wanting to go out and buy a 16 core 32 threaded CPU, especially when the Ryzen $310. You
No,
don't
it'll be
need
more
any more
business.
than that. Programs
Be
aren't
business
utilizing any
buying
more than
them
that.
up.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Big business have to have a reason to do it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Intel's knocking on their door, giving them incentive. I don't really know. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But again,
Yeah, it will be.
again, with that one, I can't really speculate a whole lot, but we can speculate on this one. Nvidia's first Volta-powered GPU sits in at 149,000. Now, speaking of flagship, speaking of profit, this is what Nvidia does. They've got this new graphics card architecture that's announced. It's designed for deep learning. They've put really big focus on deep learning in here, and they're charging for it. So you get 8 of these GPUs in a box, and they're charging 150 grand for it. And honestly, they're probably going to be selling it because of the power that it boasts. It can do so much more than a server could do, and it's so little, so tiny. So I mean, Nvidia's direction. I remember we called this out a few years ago. They were getting into cars. They're getting into this deep learning sort of avenue, and it's really paying off for them because not only are they getting a lot more money from as a company standpoint, they've got a lot more R&D money now, and they're branching that down to us gamers. So we're benefiting from it too. Of course, there's the whole competition argument, but at least Nvidia's been a healthy company. They're doing their thing. They're getting into big business. They're getting very profitable. And of course, we've seen year on year just gains from Nvidia in terms of GPU performance to us consumers. So something that I really like is something that I really like about Nvidia, and they're doing that. So this thing is just absolutely huge. Apparently we've got 5,120 CUDA cores. Now this is for business, guys. This is when we're going to see Volta for consumers. I have no idea. Nvidia's really just said, look, we've got this card. It's here. It utilizes HBM. It has a massive amount of cores. The die is freaking huge. What's the size of the die?
815 millimeters squared.
Yeah, so it's one of the biggest dies ever to ever be
It
released.
is the biggest die ever, I think. One of the giant, I think it's one of the largest silicon chips ever produced, period. It's almost twice the size of a Titan XP chip.
Yeah, but that's as people pointed out last time with Vega as well. These chips are utilizing HBM. You can see here, so that's making the die bigger. So
yeah, HBM too. Yeah, that will obviously. Yeah, so that will bring it quite a bit bigger. It's on the 12 nanometer process. They're saying it's a dramatic. The architecture is dramatically different from Pascal, rather than just a simple die shrink. So that's quite interesting too. And Nvidia's R&D budget, as you were mentioning before, has actually been increasing.
Yeah.
So it hasn't. A lot of people think maybe that they were sitting on their hands, but it definitely doesn't seem like that from everything we're seeing. Nvidia is number one when it comes to graphics cards, and they're definitely wanting to keep that position because they're investing a lot of money in this. And yeah, HBM2 clocked at 1.75 gigahertz on a huge 4096-bit bus.
Yeah.
That's going to be just crazy. So this obviously isn't going to be for consumers, but we can learn a bit about this, and the fact that the architecture is so different means that it should be quite interesting when Volta comes out for the people that have been waiting for it, or maybe once Vega comes out, they'll wait to see what Nvidia releases to compete with it. Yeah, this could be very, very good. I expect Volta to be extremely powerful.
Yeah, so they'll be releasing
hopefully...
one of these cards, a PCIe slot version, for around about 10,000. So if you can't wait for the consumer version, you can go out and pop one of these in your rig. Just let me know how it performs. That's all. So, but yeah, it's a very, very crazy design. It's a radically new architecture, and they're going for 12 nanometer. So they are shrinking down. That is confirmed. So what you've got here is, again, and this isn't even the, I think they've still cut off some of these CUDA cores as well. Like it's apparently, was it 5,376 or something like that? So this isn't even the full-fledged version of this GPU. So maybe in another year's time, you might see like a consumer grade 5,300 CUDA core GPU. So stay tuned for it. It's going to be absolutely massive, but this is what's installed in the pipeline for us consumers. Essentially, it will trickle down eventually.
Yeah, it will.
So that's the good thing. But yeah, here it is. It's been announced. And how does it perform in games? I think they didn't even... Did they showcase any? They just showcased really some VR kind of thing with it. I remember I watched a little bit of the live stream. They had a car and it just went out sort of mapped itself, and there were four people like talking or interacting, and yeah, it was basically this is a business dedicated graphics card for deep learning and for helping people with whatever modeling, everything like that. So out of my depth as well. I'm only just looking at games, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, but here it is. It's been announced. It's official. 12 nanometers, huge amount of CUDA cores, can utilize HBM2, but I'm sure a lot of the consumer grade, we'll actually tie this article in here, I'm sure a lot of the consumer grade graphics cards will be utilizing GDDR6 now. So 6, and we've got the article up here, SK Hynix has kind of like announced their GDDR6 at GTC. So the same time Nvidia announced their Volta, the boys over at SK Hynix said, look, we've got GDDR6 ready. It's essentially double the speeds, so you can expect double what you're getting. So 16,000 megahertz effective on your memory, as opposed to 8. So hopefully, I mean, I don't exactly know how it works, but that's what it seems like, and that's how it seems it'll work. So that's going to be huge for those mid-range graphics cards, even mid-upper range graphics cards, like where a 1070 is at the moment. I think that's the next 1070 will utilize this quite well.
Yeah.
What Nvidia plans to do with HBM2 on consumer graphics cards is anyone's guess at the moment. I'd say they'd have a top tier card like the Titan X, maybe the Titan whatever, Titan W, and Titan V. That's probably what it'll be called, don't you reckon?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. So Titan V, that'll be out, and expect to see an article in like 2 days time. WCCF Tech, Titan V, rumors. And some fake slide. It's gonna have this and that HBM2. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But that'll probably be the upper card, HBM2.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's gonna be interesting as far as memory goes. With these new GPUs, I mean, we pretty much know that Vega will have HBM2, but would it be interesting to see what Volta comes with on all the different models that'll be coming out, all the different SKUs you'll be able to pick from. Yeah, I think, I'd imagine you were right. They'll probably save HBM2 for the very high ones. Maybe not just the Titans. I'd imagine the 2080 Ti or whatever would probably get it too. But yeah, hopefully GDDR6 makes it into the lineup. Because is it out? Is that what they're saying, or is it?
Yeah, well, they announced it. It's ready. So it'll be hitting.
Oh, okay, so it will be.
It will be pretty much officially hitting Volta cards.
Yeah,
so that's pretty much confirmed. When Volta's coming out exactly, I mean, I don't know, but just Volta's there. I'm sure Nvidia's even working on their next architecture. And they'd probably
I'd
have
say
that
September.
close to alpha.
Yeah.
So
September, October, guys, is what I would imagine. Nvidia's not going to, they're going to want Volta out for the Christmas period. I guarantee it. They'll have it out for then, because that's when they'll make.
Titan XV.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, we got here up next here the NSA. So a group of hackers stole some tools, and now they're using them for nefarious purposes. So what have you made out of this cyber attack? So essentially, what are they using, like WannaCry and all this? So they infect the computers via, however it can be, via some fishy websites or via advertising, and then they hold you to ransom where you have to pay $300 on Bitcoin per drive. My sister actually got held up by one of these. Yeah, my sister got held up, and I just said, look, just have you got your stuff backed up on a USB stick? She's like, yeah, I actually do. I'm like, just reformat the whole hard drive. GG, away you go. Don't pay them anything. Don't pay them.
This is quite interesting. So apparently they're called the shadow brokers, and they used a tool which the NSA used to use, or maybe still does. It seems to just have affected people running unupdated systems, but mainly hit a lot of people running Windows XP. So it's sort of a good thing that you always update your PC. And maybe all the people on Windows 10 are maybe thankful they're on it now. So yeah, this is interesting that it basically encrypts your files, and then you have to pay a certain amount of Bitcoin, and then it will be fine. I think it deletes the files, or if you wait too long, the price goes up or something like that. So yeah, but
it's nasty.
Apparently,
man.
Someone's already figured it out. One guy I was reading, they said, I think it was a 22-year-old, had already figured out how to beat it or something. But the sad thing is that this is hit. Apparently, one of the worst hit places was the DHS in the UK, which is their public health system, and all their computers there. And that's interrupted all the hospitals and stuff, from what I was reading anyway. So it's not really good. And then when these guys get caught that did it, because they attacked Russia and other places as well, so you're pretty much, going to have everybody going after you. They're going to go to prison for probably the rest of their lives. So,
man, like, do you reckon you'll start seeing guys on university campuses running around just manually putting this into people's PCs? Like some guy with a hoodie on, like, hey, what up?
That's probably what the news thinks happens, but I don't think it's something you would see on CNN. But
need that money. Someone will do it. I reckon someone will do it. It will only be a matter of time before someone actually physically goes onto people's computers and installs this crap. So I want to get that cash. So
yeah. So
and on that news of dodgy software and dodgy programs, we've got HP. So contains a keylogger. And so if you guys are on some of these laptops, if you guys have a HP laptop, you know someone who's on a particular model. I believe it's built into the audio driver. So there was a person it was a Mod Zero. These guys here, they found it in the audio driver. It's essentially a keylogger. It records everything you say. I mean, not everything you type.
Yeah.
Probably could even do things that you say, maybe, but I don't know. We've got HP Elite, Pro Books, Elite Books, more Elite Books, Z Books, and the operating systems span from a wide variety, 10 to 7, and even embedded. So if you guys are on a HP laptop, you might want to check this out. I'll actually put the link to this article in the description below. So if you know someone who's on a HP laptop, you might want to tell them, give them a heads up and say, look, you might have a keylogger, a built-in, courtesy of HP, a keylogger built into your computer, which is pretty sad. It's not really good news for HP, but, oh man, nothing worse than a keylogger, knowing that every key you type is getting recorded. So that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's pretty, that's, well, what's weird about it as well is where they put it. Do you see where they put it in the audio driver?
yeah, that's what I was saying.
What?
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But yeah, no, it's not good.
So, and last on the news here, we have Nvidia's financial Q1 is up 48%. Now, Nintendo Switch sales, of course, helped. I don't think it really. I mean, some people be like, "Oh, yeah, the Nintendo Switch sales." Yeah, it did help. It did account for, I think, 192 million of its Tegra revenue. And I mean, the Switch is selling really well. I know a lot of people who have bought a Switch. I was thinking about it, but I was like, look, only gaming that I do, guys, is PC gaming. I'm faithful to my PC, okay? I ain't cheating on this thing. I ain't going anywhere. I ain't cheating on it.
Yeah.
So that's what I realized in the end. So faithful to the PC. I know a lot of you guys out there are faithful to your PCs as well. But we look at the revenue. It's up. Like, that's the thing. Even if the Switch did 192 million, look at that. It's up like 622 million. So up 48% compared to the same quarter last year. That is huge. Nvidia's just making the bucks. See the margins? I was telling you guys last week about the margins. Nvidia's gross margin is huge as well, 60%. Intel's is 60 something percent. AMD's was down to like 30, was it 34%? So AMD have to pick up their margins. Nvidia's margins are healthy. Intel's margins are healthy. And of course, this revenue is huge, the increase. So it's not just the Tegra sales. Obviously, their deep learning program, everything else that they're doing with that is making up. I think it has a report here. So automotive industry, yeah. So Nvidia's just putting their hands everywhere, and it's just like success. So there you go. What do you have to say about the juggernaut that is Nvidia?
I mean, it's good that the profit margins are there. As we talked about earlier, yeah, and you just said that the AMD profit margins, it's good that they got back into it. I mean, you must admit, this is what they've done with Ryzen is really good to bring people back onto AMD-based systems by probably not running very big margins on their Ryzen CPUs. So it was a good move. But yeah, that they have to bring up the profit margins with
it's
Naples.
kind of really ironic that they were competing, sort of like their GPU competition's gone down, but now their CPU competition's gone up. It's kind of just really like, and I wish they would hit hard on both fronts, but again, we've gone down this avenue a lot of times, many times before, so crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's
some Q&A. Just lighten the mood up, guys. Some Q&A. So, only one question. Oh, I feel so lonely this week. So we got here some questions. Oh, but it's a couple of questions. So for Kevin, what's the story behind Teddy? Yeah, do you want to share this story behind Teddy, your co-host?
It's not a very long story. But yeah, my brother, when he was living in Singapore, sent me Teddy as like a birthday present. And then I thought, it'd be quite cool to keep him in the videos. So it was sort of like having my brother in my videos because I didn't see him very often. So that's how it kind of started. And then I just kept him in as like a co-host. Plus, I always just thought he was kind of funny because I used to watch Mr. Bean when I was growing up, and I always thought it was funny, him and Teddy in the TV show. So yeah, that's why I kept him on.
Do you want to start calling him Brother Teddy? This is my co-host, Brother Teddy.
Nah, that sounds lame. But yeah, I just kept to do something different. I mean, the thing is with YouTube in general is a lot of people are scared to do anything different with their channel. But you have to do something because it's such an oversaturated platform. You have to make yourself stand out from the crowd, or else you're going to be glanced over. And to a certain degree, I probably still am glanced over, but at least you have something that makes you different. Look at all the top YouTubers, and there's something that makes them different. The way they make their videos, or how they act on the camera, or what they're about, or whatever. There's always something that makes them very different. You don't get to get like 1 million subscribers plus by being just like everybody else. So there is a reason why people keep coming back to your videos and that. So it's good to be different. And that's my advice I'd say to you guys as well, if you're starting a YouTube channel.
Yep. There you go, guys. You've got Teddy's co-host.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, so we got here. I love sporting the Illidan Stormrage background wallpaper. Yeah, I love World of Warcraft. A big fan, even though I don't get to play it much. Yeah, I guess you could call me a bit of an Illy worshipper, even back in the Warcraft 3 days. He was such a really rogue character. It was really cool. And yeah, I do like the background as well. It's a pretty cool background. So, yeah, big WoW fan. Ever since that game dropped in, like, what was it, 2004? 2000? Like, I remember when it first dropped, man, it was just crazy. I had friends who didn't even play PC games. They were like, dude, I made like a Tauren warrior. I'm like, huh? Like, dude, you never play PC games. What the hell's going on? So, yeah, that was just one of those games that was iconic, and it still just carries a real soft spot. And that's why I buy like every expansion, even though I don't really get time to enjoy it much. So, one of these days, man, one of these days I will have a holiday and play through the whole WoW expansion and enjoy it, thoroughly enjoy it, I'm sure. So can you guys think of that single defining moment where you fell in love with tech, all things tech, and decided that you were going to live, breathe, and eat tech? So what about you, Kev?
I can't think of the defining moment, but for me it kind of came in two doses. So when I was about 15 years old, I started getting into tech heavily back then. And then I sort of only kind of half kept up with it. And then about 4 years ago, I got really back into it again at the tail end of, I remember it by GPUs, with the tail end of the Nvidia 400 series, and when Sandy Bridge was very new. And then I got back into it then. And then I started getting into it much more heavily to like the enthusiast type degree and watching YouTube channels. Back then I was watching Linus, and it was really good, and I got really into it. So it sort of came to me in kind of two doses. But yeah, lately it's only been since sort of Sandy Bridge, I would say, that I was really sort of solidly following everything tech. Before then it was a bit more sporadic. What about you, bro?
Warcraft 2 was when I first was introduced to awesome PC games. I remember Warcraft 2, man, I was just loving that. I remember I first played it. I remember my friend lent it to me because I was a big console, like played Nintendos and stuff. I would have been like, what, 11 years old or something, man? Like, anyway, I was just talking up Zelda all the time, and he's like, hey, dude, you should try Warcraft 2. And I tried it. And, like, I think that was the first all-nighter I ever pulled in my life. Just like glued to this machine playing Warcraft 2. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And everything about Blizzard's games were just so good. The voice acting even back then was so good, even with Warcraft 2. Everything, you didn't realize it at the time, like I was only a kid. But now that I look back at Warcraft 2, everything was good. The gameplay was good. The music was good. The sound, the voice acting was just on point. And that's why I love some of the old school games. Of course, it really started with Brood War, when I only had a 100 megahertz machine with a turbo. It had a turbo button, like legit. I still had one of those on my machine, and it just ran Brood War like crap. So I got out the newspaper and I was looking through, and there was like, you could go and buy an all-in-one, which was just ridiculously expensive back in those days, or you could just build it yourself. I remember there was this place called Game Dude Computer, and they were like, okay, you can build this and this if you buy all your own parts. So I was like, all right, why not give it a go? Built a AMD K450. Oh, man, I've actually got to build my first PC that I built and redo it. That'd be cool, because then I can refresh myself with all the parts, everything I used. I didn't overclock at all, because I had no idea what overclocking was back then when I first built it. But as time went on, I started to like enjoy tech, and I wanted to get the most out of it, and it became just a really good passion. Now it's just what it is. Tech, city, bro.
Well, it's also good when we got into it, when we did, in a lot of ways, because the industry's just growing so massive now in terms of like, see what we're seeing, and PC hardware sales and everything are going through the roof. So it's good that we got into it when we did. Of course, there were people that were, in terms of making the videos as well, but there were the OGs that were there from the start, and they were really in from the start. But the rest of us, I think, still got in at a good point.
Yeah. Question number 2, I'm not going to answer. You can answer it if you want.
Let's see. Look here. Oh, why didn't you want to answer it?
Well, yeah, the less I could and couldn't do things. So
What's that? I was just reading there's another person had posted a question just underneath it.
yeah. And that's the thing, like I've, legitimately, like I do videos because I love doing videos for you guys. I mean, yes, money is an important thing and you have to make money at the end of the day. So what people do to make money, man, yeah, like, I could be selling my butt out at night, to make ends meet. So it's just like, at the end of the day though, like, yeah, when we announce patron and stuff like that, you become a patron, things like that do help the channel. I don't beg for patron, but of course, just understand that, like, if you do donate money, it's going to a cause of just us to keep doing videos for you guys. That's all it is. YouTube is really a really weird kettle of fish. They'll favor certain channels and they'll just promote those channels like no tomorrow. And if you're that channel, you've got to be loving life. You're getting the views, you're getting other companies coming wanting to join you. Guys like me, Steve and Kev, we don't get that mainstream love from YouTube. We never have. So it's kind of like we got to grind and grind and grind. And I enjoy the grind. I do enjoy making videos, but at the same time, it's not like, even though the channel's at 100, I think it just hit 193,000, it's not like, man, I guarantee you the average Aussie working a regular job is making more than me. They're getting more free time than I am as well. I guarantee you that. I only do this because I love doing it. Even still, it's not massive bucks. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's and I mean, there's been the ad issue now, which has hit quite a few people.
That's the worst lately. Yeah, that's been the biggest thing. This YouTube whole shake-up, which I believe is in place because they're, you heard the news. They're wheeling in Ellen DeGeneres and stuff like that. They're getting all these big names as make it more TV, G-rated friendly and stuff like that. That's the real sort of reason they're doing it. And that's affected a lot of people. I've been affected. I know a lot of other people have been affected. You said you didn't really get affected by it, yeah?
I did, but for some reason my advertisement from Canada actually, like, it went up. So I don't know what was happening there, but yeah, the rest of them went down. So it has still affected me, but I think tech channels generally got away with it a little bit better than other ones.
Yeah, there was some channels that just went under, and there probably be more that'll go under because they're just killing the advertising on these poor channels. And I feel sorry for a lot of these guys because they've built up their YouTube channels to the stage where they're employing people, and they've got people relying on them for a paycheck. And, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know at the end of the day. I don't really know what's going to happen. All I can do is say, hey, look, I'm healthy, man. I'm going to go overclock myself after this at the gym. You're healthy. I can jump into a job, any job. If YouTube failed the next day, man, it's all good. I got friends who will give us a job. I got 2 friends who have offered us jobs already, so it's fine. I'm all good. Don't worry about me. I'm a grinder. Yeah, bro. So...
hustler, hey,
that's it, man. You gotta hustle, you gotta grind. So as long as you're healthy, and you got energy, and I feel sorry for the people who have disabilities that can't be helped. That's sad. My heart goes out to those people. But if you're a guy and you're healthy, man, don't be afraid. Don't be scared. You're healthy. You're willing. If you've got some intelligence, you'll be fine in this world. Anyway, guys, we're going to move over. We're going to end this stream. I'm going to join the chat out. If you guys are hanging out in the chat, I'll start, hang out for a couple of minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even an hour. I'm going to join the chat, hang out with you guys in the chat, and we'll catch you next week for another awesome episode of the Tech Lounge. Any final closing statements, Kev?
I just have a new video be coming out tomorrow, hopefully. That will be the Ryzen 1700 versus the Ryzen 1600 versus the Ryzen 1400. So the quad core, 6 core, and 8 cores going up against each other, and I'll be basically looking at which one's the best value for money. At this stage, it's looking like that 1600, but I haven't crunched all the numbers yet, so I'll be doing that today and hopefully getting that video out for you guys tomorrow.
All right, awesome. So, and we'll have the thread up on techcity.tv/forums. We'll make the new thread for episode 27. If you have questions, you can head on over and ask those questions, and we'll answer them next week. And we'll catch you guys next week. Peace out for now.